to be part of NorthStar community and all that we're doing for people here locally in the area, and even for some of you, that's not in the area. And so today we're going to continue to talk about ways to overcome our addictions. And so again, remember our premise here is that addiction is habitual behavior to avoid pain. And so that's what we want to keep looking at is what have we done all these years to commit to making our lives such that uh, our pain is so high in our lives that we just can't face it, and so we do destructive things that are harmful to ourselves and to others. And not only is it harmful, we just can't stop not doing it. And in spite of all the consequences, we continue to do what we do. And so that's why you're here. Again, if you're here because you're addicted. So again, just for some reminders, again, I think it's important is to be a little bit repetitive on this. Addiction and our definition of addictions are based in three areas. They are substances, compulsive behaviors, and people addictions. And the people addictions, again, is we become addicted to thinking that we can change other people to fit what we want. Now, a lot of people out there get offended by that because as us that are what we call codependent, which means we become addicted to people, is because of, again, what's our reason? Our pain is high. We don't want to just live our lives trusting ourselves, loving ourselves. Instead, let's be honest, if we're addicted, we loathe ourselves in so many ways. So we can't believe that people can just, love us for who we are, that we have to be doing things for others. We have to control everything so people will love us, when the fact is it's us loving us is was the start of all this. And again, not in narcissistic ways, we're not talking about that, but we're talking about healthy awareness of ourselves, a sense of loving ourselves enough to love others and to be loved. And so today we're going to talk about, I think, such a positive, exciting subject. And I call it brain plasticity. Some call it neuroplasticity. It's the fact that we have found through research that we can change. We can make our change. We can make our brains and our minds change. They've shown studies where people who've experienced trauma and abandonment, which most of you have, you wouldn't be here listening to me right now. Our brains change when we face all that. But guess what? It can also change and become healthier. So that's what's exciting about this brain plant. We are not stuck. I mean, think about for you that are in the substance addiction world and you've stopped, you're still, when you first, if for you that have just stopped, you're probably still experiencing some strange stuff. You're maybe a little too impulsive right now. It's hard not to get angry. It's hard not to overreact. Hard not to forget things. Just hang in there. That's going to get better because of brain plasticity. For you that have been in a substance abuse and addiction and now you're not, and you've been out of it for a while, you would agree with me that it's kind of weird, but you do slowly but surely your brain gets back to where it should be and what you were given at birth by God. So it's a good thing. But it's frustrating because it takes time. Brain plasticity takes time. You have to do things. For instance, I just get to validate here. They talk about seniors, people who are older. One of the things they can do that they recommend that shows that it helps the brain grow and to continue to not deteriorate, is to do physical movements that require thinking. So learning how to dance, martial arts, yoga, anything where it requires you. Ping pong is one they really like for seniors to do because it makes your brain think. It grows new circuits in your head, and you learn something new. So anyway, so it's the same thing with addiction recovery. Brain plasticity is such a wonderful, wonderful thing. And so I'm going to read a little bit of Paul here. It's 2 Corinthians 11. So Paul's making fun a bit here of the Roman leadership back then. So, the Romans, we've seen lots of stuff on that, but the Romans leadership, so the governors, all those people you want to put out, well, when they would go somewhere, say if they were assigned to Assyria or Israel or where, when they were getting ready to leave, they would hire someone to put in granite all the great achievements they did. And they'd place it somewhere, and we were all supposed to be awed and, thoroughly impressed by that. And it was, it was bragging, it was all those things. It was very political. So Paul, making fun of it a bit, he does a list of shame instead of a list of accomplishments. But what he's saying is that I've suffered much, I've gone through a lot, but because of purpose, because of what I feel I have, we're going to talk about today, agency. I have agency to control my life in some ways. These don't make me bitter, cynical, or addictive. They just are reminders to me that pain drives us and that we can do better and I can continue to grow, right? And so that's what we want. So here's where he's making fun a little bit of them. So he goes, let me come back to where I started, and don't hold it against me if I continue to sound a little foolish. Or if you'd rather, just accept that I'm a fool and let me rant a little. So it says, oh no, it's a bad habit I picked up from the three-ring preachers that are so popular these days. Since you sit there in judgment seat observing all these shenanigans, you can afford to humor an occasional fool who happens along. You have such admirable tolerance for imposters who rob your freedom, rip you off, steal you blind, put you down, even slap your face. I shouldn't admit to you, but our stomachs aren't strong enough to tolerate that kind of stuff. Since you admire the egomaniacs so much, let me try my hand at it. Do they brag of being Hebrews, Israelites, this pure race of Abraham? I'm their match. Are they servants of Christ? I can go them one better. So then he talks about what he's been through. And I always like this one because, some of us, you hear the prosperity preaching out there, and if you're a Christian, all these great things are going to happen. I think the prosperity preaching misses its mark because, yes, things are going to be better, but it's because we now have hope. We have faith. It doesn't mean we're going to do better financially, but it means we're getting healthier. And when we get healthier, things are going to go better. Because let's be honest, when we're addicted, we're a train wreck. We're a mess, and we create all sorts of problems for ourselves and for those around us. So just remember that. I just don't have that fourth grade view of Christianity where, oh, I'm a Christian now, everything's going to be great, life's going to be great. Life is going to be great, but it's because you have faith, not because everything's going to work for you. So this is Paul. I've worked much harder, been jailed more often, beaten up more times than I can count, and at death's door time after time. I've been flogged 5 times with the Jews' 39 lashes, beaten by Roman rods 3 times, pummeled with rocks once. I've been shipwrecked 3 times and immersed in the open sea for a night and a day. In hard traveling year in and year out, I've had to ford rivers, fend off robbers, struggle with friends, struggle with foes. I've been at risk in the city, at risk in the country, endangered by desert sun and sea storm, and betrayed by those I thought were my brothers. I've known drudgery and hard labor, many a long and lonely night without sleep, many a missed meal, blasted by the cold, naked to the weather. So in that, he's had it pretty easy, isn't it? And that's not all of it. If you throw in the daily pressures and anxiety of all the churches. When someone gets to the end of his rope, I feel the desperation in my bones. When someone is duped into sin, an angry fire burns in my pit. So if I have to brag about myself, I'll brag about the humiliations that make me like Jesus. And so he goes on a little bit more. But the fact is, he has purpose. He has life. These hardships are bad. They're tough. He's faced awful stuff. He got very discouraged. Trust me, Paul gets very discouraged at times as you read his letters in the New Testament. But there's something driving him. It's his faith. He saw Jesus, and not the way he probably wanted to in some ways at first. He knows Christ's love. He knows that Christ is here today. And I hope we can get to that point where we believe that as well. So we want to talk today about creating new pathways, about brain plasticity or neuroplasticity. So how about this? God is with me. I can meet the crisis that I now face. Doesn't say everything's going to be great. It just says God is with me. I can now face these things. So we have to understand that a lot of this. So we're going to really talk about the physiology here. And the reason why I think that's important is because I want us to understand that if we can buy, so you've talked about with addiction as a disease that's physiological, spiritual, and emotional or psychological. It's a spiritual, physiological, psychological disease. We have to attack all three for us to overcome it. And the physiological one is the one I think so many people see, but they see it in how we are addicted to a substance or to a compulsive behavior or to people where we just can't stop. No matter what goes wrong, no matter how often we do it, we keep doing the same things over and over again, think we'll have different results. And of course, we have all sorts of issues. How many of you out there can't stop being on your screen? How many times can you just not give up huge amounts of time, energy, and effort out there looking at stuff online? Or how about you just cannot not text that one person that you just want so bad to love you, even though you know it's not going to happen? Or of course, all of us, and then of course us know the substance abuse. We know we got to stop, but we just can't. But they're all the same. Addiction is addiction. Recovery is recovery. And so what we're trying to do here, so we want to look at physiology a lot today, but not in the physiological way of that our bodies are addicted and we just can't stop, which it is. That's true. But what we want to talk about is how we can fix this and how we have learned so much about the brain. I think about from when I graduated from college and psychology, got my master's in psychology. I've been other classes since then, how much we've come in understanding how the brain works. It's fascinating, huge opportunities in this for us to really learn how to overcome our addiction because of our understanding now of the brain. So I said earlier that our brain actually has people of trauma and abandonment. Our brains are different from people who haven't had that. So it also means our brain can change back. So that's the good news, right? So when we talk about trauma and abandonment, we talk about where we really get to is toxic shame, where we just come to just loathe ourselves. And no matter what we do, we're never enough. No matter how much we work and expect, we don't really expect more than mediocrity. And if we do get more mediocrity, we don't know how to handle it very well. And we have this thing where our inner critic just yaps in our ear, just keeps talking about how awful we are. So we learn to despise ourselves. We learn to loathe ourselves. We learn not to trust other people. All we do is that we just find ways to be broken and addictive. And so now we're going to change that, right? So instead of trying to escape ourselves, we're going to try to commit to finding ways to find ourselves. And I know that's frightening to think about, but it's what we have to do. Because here's the deal. You're not that bad. You're not so bad. If you can just keep remembering that, you can overcome this. You're not perfect, never will be. You've done a lot of dumb things in your life due to your addiction. It's okay. You need to let those go, learn from them, and move forward. That's why people of recovery are such wonderful people, because when you do recover, which it's not a graduation, but as you get healthier in your recovery, you're better than a lot of other people because you've faced hell. You know what it's like, and little things become great to you. So how do we get ourselves healthier? How do we do things that we can do to make ourselves much more healthy? And so there's three. So I was listening to, I think it was Jordan Peterson. It might have been Andrew Huberman. So please forgive me which one it was. But he talked to a psychiatrist and he said, you've worked with a lot of people and you've got a lot of books out. What do happy people have in common? And he said this pretty quickly. He paused for a second, but he said, they have agency, they live with intentional gratitude, and they have humility. I thought, that's pretty good. So he talked about it a little bit, and I agree with him. So he said, so what's about agency? What does agency mean? Agency means that you have control in your life. You believe that at the end of the day, you have control in how your life goes. But not only that, but you believe in yourself. You love yourself enough to do that. And you'll make mistakes. You can live with those. You see life as a process. You know that other people hold you in high regard. You hold other people in high regard. You know that people around you, the people you have around you, are healthy enough for you, and you're healthy enough for them. You learn how to set boundaries with toxic people. You learn how to have goals. You have purpose. Yes, you have challenges. You have tough times. All those things. That's all part of it. But at the end of the day, you're not only do you believe in all that, but you're connected to you. So see, the problem is when we have trauma, we disconnect from ourselves. It's too painful. So this is our way. Agency means that I am connected to me. I'm connected to how I feel. I'm connected to my body. The term is alexithymia is when we have the inability to be able to verbalize how we feel. We're in big trouble. So people that come see me or come talk to me, that's one of the big things I do all the time. How do you feel? How do you feel? I don't want to hear how you think. I want to hear how you feel, because we disconnect from that. We have to be connected in our feelings. And man, is that tough, because a lot of us have lots of reasons not to connect because we've had a lot of hurt in our lives. But the problem is that hurt that we had in our childhood, we carry with us. And we continue to get ourselves hurt and set ourselves up for bad situations. So agency is the big thing. You believe you have some control in your life. It's realistic. There are things you can't control the weather, sorry, but you can control how you operate within the bad weather. And that's kind of symbolic for our lives. The other one is intentional gratitude. We live with intentional gratitude. We find ways to see the good in life. We find ways to be grateful even in tough times. And we also find ways to be grateful in good times, because that's when it can be easy to forget that too. I always like Sean Aucher's 5 categories he uses that he developed at Harvard. Write down 3 things you're grateful for every day. Write down 1 good thing that happened today. Meditate and prayer. I always just say rate that from 1 to 10. Exercise, rate it 1 to 10, or write out what you did. And then write down 1 random act of kindness that you did for someone else who wasn't expecting it. They found that people that do this, that live intentional gratitude, have a much higher degree of happiness in their life than people who don't, which makes sense. So think about it. If you have gratitude, you also have agency. If you have agency, you have gratitude. And then humility, just real quick, I thought it was interesting, he threw it in there, was that people that are happiest know they're part of something bigger than themselves. This isn't all about them. There's other people out there. There's issues bigger than them. There's problems bigger than them. But they find agency and gratitude within all that. So I thought that was pretty good. So we'll talk about this more, like how do we do this? We're going to talk about how to do meditation and some of that. We're going to talk about small things, how you got to do small things to help you get to where you want to. But so today the big thing is for brain plasticity, we need to understand, for us, we can recover, we can get better. Paul, and all the struggles he had in his life, he still lived with gratitude, love, faith, agency. That's what we have to do. If you're walking around purposeless, in misery, angry, resentful, addictive, there's a better way to go. And you can do it, but it takes time. Life is a process. It doesn't happen overnight. If it did, it wouldn't be good. So we'll talk about this more. We continue to talk about this in our meetings, and you're always welcome to come. Again, we meet on Wednesdays and Fridays at 6:30 here at Walnut Grove Baptist Church at 7046 Cold Harbor Road, Mechanicsville, Virginia. If you ever want to contact me, if you're not locally, email me at csimpson@wgva.church. Calling probably isn't as good. You need to email me is the best way to get hold of me, and I'll get back to you. We got people watching us from across the country, different states. It's so exciting to have that, and we'd love to hear from you. And if you ever want to talk in person, we can, because addiction's tough, man. If anybody tells you otherwise, they're not being honest. Remember the great saying is, I don't care about your childhood. I just care about how your childhood affects you today. Once you understand that, become aware of the stuff doing, you can get that agency you're looking for, that control in your life. You can learn, you'll see much more of the great gratitude that you have going in your life, and you'll be appropriately humble, but still confident in what you're doing. So we always close our meetings with the prayer of serenity. And so I'd like to do that today, and listen to this prayer. It's about agency. It's about you're in control, what you can be in control of, and let the rest go to God. That's what it's all about. So let's close in prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference. Living one day at a time, enjoying one moment at a time, accepting hardships as a pathway to peace. Taking as Jesus did, the sinful world as it is, not as I would have it. Trusting that Jesus will make all things right if I surrender to his will, that I may be reasonably happy in this life and supremely happy with him forever in the next. Amen. So again, thank you for joining us today. Love to hear from you. If you're local, come see us. We feed you. We have full meals on Friday and Wednesday nights. We have pizza usually. On Friday night, we actually have meals that are prepared or brought in, and childcare. We have childcare both Wednesdays and Fridays. So we take away a lot of reasons for you not to come. So come join us. We're a safe group. We love you. We'll support you. And again, if you're not